You're listening to The Mentality Show, only on LA Talk Radio.
Welcome to The Mentality Show. Welcome to The Mentality Show.
All right, and welcome back, all you Mentalians out there, to The Mentality Show. This is episode 2 here at LA Talk Radio. We are here. We are happy. This is our second show. We are feeling good today. How we feeling, gentlemen?
Great.
Feeling great?
I got gas.
That's always a good feeling. Get that out of there. Get that out of there. It's a small room. All right, so basically, I'm your host, Delano. I'll be here with you every time. I got my man, Vato V. We got Tech C over here. Paulie in the house. Paul Anthony doing his thing over there. And we have a special guest today. Welcome to The Mentality Show. We got Mr. Tom Katsis. Welcome, Mr. Tom Katsis, everybody.
Welcome.
That's right. Let me tell you a little bit about Tom Katsis. He's our guest today. He's an Iowa boy who came to Hollywood to fulfill his childhood dream to be in movies, TV, live theater, doing very well, and currently has a video on YouTube with over 100 million viewers throughout the world. Okay, 100 million viewers. And he also happens to be a very dear friend of mine, Mr. Tom Katsis.
Thank you very much.
How's it feel to be here, Tommy?
It's a big honor, and I watched your show, and it's really killing. It's really good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well,
by the way, on the millennial, it's 100 million views worldwide. YouTube's about 6 million. Vimeo's probably 5 or 6. So it's how it got started. That's how it got started to go worldwide with all the views.
Are we talking about your view or his sex tape?
That did 4 views.
And I want to make sure I have the title right. It's called The Millennial or A Millennial Job Interview, right?
And then sometimes interview with a millennial.
Interview with a millennial. Okay.
That was the funniest shit I've seen.
Yeah, that's funny. Oh man, it basically touches on how the millennials are these days and how their attitudes can be when it comes to hard work and basically growing up and trying to be a successful member of society, right? You're from a different generation, so you're having this communication gap during the interview. Funny stuff. You got to see it.
Well, Delano, the thing that's interesting about it is most millennials are really quite sharp and very entrepreneurial, but it was a quintessential, like, making fun of the millennial that takes pictures of the food all the time. Most millennials are really doing quite well, but then there are some who are, like, not quite getting it yet. It was a parody.
I hate guys taking pictures of the food all the time.
Plenty of millennials like that out there. We have children, too, so we're afraid. When our children grow, are they still millennials?
Those are people that are like probably into their early 30s right now. The new generation now is Generation Z.
Yeah.
The people about ready to start college.
Okay. So we'll have a whole new generation
to pick on.
People, taking pictures of other things besides food. Maybe we'll see.
I wonder what they'll call them.
Tide pods.
Nuclear war survivors.
Tide pod survivors.
Taking pictures of the cloud, the mushroom cloud. That would be taking pictures of that.
All right. So as you know, with our show, we like to talk about things that we experience throughout the week. And then we like to bring up a current event, and then we like to move into the meat and potatoes of our show, which is our topics that we usually talk about. So speaking of our weeks, we had a very interesting week this week, the Mentality Show. We actually went out on location in Hollywood. That's right. On Sunset. We got our Hollywood fix on, and we basically talked with some of the people in this movie. It's a B horror-rated movie called Attack of the Southern Fried Zombies. We asked interesting questions, talked to some of these stars and producers and directors and actors and people like that. And we actually have a clip. So let's see what we got here. We're going to show you guys all the fun we had and go from there.
If an apocalyptic situation were to occur today, how would you handle yourself as a grown-ass man in a situation like that?
Grown-ass man situation, I'm finding the nearest Walmart I can find. And I'm stockpiling weapons, food, and any other provision I can possibly need later on. And I'm shutting that Walmart down. That's my Walmart.
Nice.
Anybody else comes in there, you got to go through, you got to pay a tax, and you may not still get in. Okay, it depends on how I'm feeling that day. But definitely finding a Walmart. They have everything you need, so that's the route I'm going to go.
Let's say a real apocalypse were to occur in the world, okay? And there was some type of zombie leader. Who would you like that leader to be? Either Mother Teresa, Donald Trump, or a strong female out there that's in Hollywood? Who would you want that to be and why?
but I would have to say a strong female lead in Hollywood. I feel like there's a lot of women out there that could do the job well and diplomatically.
Nice. One last question. If an apocalyptic situation were to occur today and there was a leader of all the zombies out there, who would you want that leader to be, Mother Teresa or Donald Trump?
Leader of the zombies?
Leader of the zombies.
I have to say Donald Trump.
Donald Trump. All right. So he's going to be building a wall to keep all the zombies out. Mr. Timothy Hay basically made that decision right there. And basically
leading the zombies, though, right?
Leading the zombies,
Yeah,
exactly.
zombies.
Right, leading the zombies.
Let's make that clear.
Right. Sort of like it is today, basically. There was a zombie apocalypse today. Okay, and the ruler of all zombies were to, rule the world or whatnot. Who would you like that person to be? Mother Teresa or Donald Trump?
Mother Teresa.
Mother Teresa. And why?
Because I don't like Trump. I'm very
That's right. So let's say there was a zombie apocalypse today.
Yeah.
Okay, and let's say you were bitten and you turned into a zombie. Okay, and you had to eat people's brains. What kind of food would you prefer? Would you prefer Asian food, Mexican food, Korean barbecue, or soul food?
That's a really good question. I've never thought of that one before. But I would have to say I like homegrown stuff. I'm a meat and potatoes kind of guy, so I would probably go for all the whites.
All the whites,
Yeah.
okay, all the whites, and some of the heavier people. In the
Exactly. Yeah.
And we're back. Okay, so that was our preview of the movie, Attack of the Southern Fried Zombies. Met a lot of people there, a lot of beautiful people, had a lot of fun. We're going to be doing things like that on our show. We're going to go out and do events, and we're going to be talking with people on the streets, asking them interesting questions, questions pertaining to all kinds of things, especially questions pertaining to what grown-ass men have to deal with. And just, we try to add a humorous blend to some of the serious issues going on in the world. And that basically segues us to our next current events, okay? And Vato V is going to tell you a little bit about what we decided to talk about on our current event.
Awesome. You know what? I came across this story that caught my attention. It's talking about how parents are buying Kevlar or bulletproof backpacks for the kids now that all these shootings are going on, which is kind of crazy, man. And it ranges, man. It ranges in prices from anywhere from $100 to $300. And that caught my attention. I was like, damn, do I really want my kids to go to school with a bulletproof backpack? Is that
what the world has come to?
That is crazy, man. That is really, really crazy. And that's what this world's coming to nowadays where, as a parent, you're sending your kid to the safest place that you think it's the safest place. And now look what's going on in the world with all these guys.
That backpack just seems like a gimmick.
I agree.
It's just a way for someone to make some money. They did some tests. Handgun calibers 9, 40, 45,
357 Magnum.
It stops it, but you put an AR-15 bullet through there, 223 or 5.56, and it goes right through.
Yep.
Yeah.
And what are these shooters? They're usually using assault rifles, the AR-15s, and they did another test with some catalogs, and the catalogs alone stopped the bullet.
Right.
So,
Really?
So and then you got a small, just about this, and you got a headshot, still clear your legs.
You have to be wearing the backpack in order for it to work. You take your backpack on your way to school, you take it off, you put it in the
you might be
closet.
safer if you took the fucking thing off and threw it at the shooter.
Right, I know, right?
But what's interesting, I posed the question to my wife. I was like, what do you think about this? And she's like, I'd buy it because of that minuscule percent chance that the bullet has to come from a certain direction at a certain kind of day. And it's like, I understand. You're basically paying peace of mind. It's like an insurance that you're never going to use.
What if you're a geeky kid and you carry all these books?
Then
and
you're a target
and things like that. But at least maybe they can.
But they roll them around. They roll them on fucking carts. So, bulletproof cart.
Bulletproof cart. It basically all depends on. If I'm a shooter and I'm shooting people, I'm gonna put myself in the mentality of a shooter, I guess. And I shoot someone and I see that they're still moving around, I'm gonna make sure I finish the job. So I don't think a backpack is gonna stop that.
Damn, Dirty Harry.
That's right, baby. That's right. I'm not just a host. I'm a killer. No.
You know what though? That's scary. Again, as a parent, you send your kid and you think, okay, your kid's gonna be okay, but I can't even imagine getting a phone call and thinking, something happened to my child, man. It's like, it is crazy, man.
But how often is that shit happening nowadays?
Yeah, it's that's the scary part. You don't even know what to expect,
We'll go into go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead.
Stat wise, how often is that happening? 2017 saw approximately 320 mass shootings, which is described as any more than 4 people shot, injured, killed by a lone gunman, not including the gunman if they took their life. So
that's almost one a
day
in a year.
And I forgot to look at the percentage of those being school shootings. It seems like a handful, maybe 5 or less, but it's still a percentage, and it's still happening just about one every day.
You know, I read an interesting statistic when we went over these statistics, these facts, that out of all these shootings, I believe there's 13,000 people who are killed per year by guns. And then it says another statistic, as an African-American male, there's another statistic that said black men are 13 times more likely to be killed by guns. And I did the math, so that's 13 times 13,000. That's 169,000 black men are pretty much killed or murdered by guns each year. So that makes me pretty exotic.
Or endangered.
You're in endangered
so basically,
species,
if it was out of us 5 people here, it would not looking too good for you.
Not looking too good for me, you know. So
you might need to get that backpack.
I know.
And we're in a nation of like 329 million people, so there's a lot of recessive genes out there. And if you're going to have mentally ill people for the next millions of years, so you cannot completely stop these things.
Right.
But if you could reduce the frequency, that would be important.
Talk about that. What are some ways we can work into? There's so many issues, guys. It's probably one of the most complicated things that I've had to read. I had a chance to look and study Twitter for about 2 straight days, no sleep.
So we all agree that these issues stem from mental health issues, mostly.
Yes.
Mostly.
A lot of
because you got to be a
It's
crazy
part of
mother
it.
effort to go out there and pull a gun and shoot somebody.
You can be crazy, but if you don't have a gun laying around, what are you going to do?
Exactly.
If you're crazy, it's like a combination. It's A plus B plus.
Then you
and
grab
so
a
on.
knife. I mean, household knives are all over the place. I mean, people are
Yeah.
still these killings happen regardless of whether there's a gun around or not.
Well, you know what? I started thinking about it, and especially with these shootings that are happening in the schools, it stems back from bullying. That's what I think. You know what I mean? And it's like one of those where if you see somebody bullying somebody, try to stop them, man. Try to help them out. Try to let them know, because you never know. Years next week, the following day, or whatever. This kid can bring a gun because he's scared or something like that, and you just go ahead and blow these people away.
There was this thing where they had like this kid bullying a kid in a restaurant, and they watched who would intervene, you know, and like very few people did. They just kind of looked and walked on, and maybe 1 or 2 were like, "Hey, stop! What the hell are you doing?"
Yeah.
Come on, man. These people don't do shit around. People just walk away.
Yeah.
And that goes to the parents. The parents aren't teaching these kids. They're just handing them the device. Here you go. And go on about the day, or hanging out, drinking beers, or
you're on your own.
Yeah.
Well, in the
Here's your
workplace, when
backpack, here's your
somebody
device.
gets fired and he was mentally ill to start with, and they can't be in the workplace anymore, so they fire him, and maybe they do it in a real gentle manner and try to be real kind to the guy, but then all of a sudden he comes back packing some, killing people in the workplace.
Right.
Same thing.
When I was young, they did that in the postal service, and they used to call every time that happened.
Going postal.
He went postal.
Yeah, went postal.
Every time you hear a knock on your door and you see the mailman, you're like, "Fuck! Did I pay my mail bill?"
And now with shootings happening everywhere, it's like, oh, instead of going postal, he went Chipotle, or he went McDonald's, or he went
Millennial.
Glendale Galleria on us.
He went millennial.
He went millennial on you.
Yes.
And he took a picture of it while he did it, but while he shot you.
I know, right?
Which is not fucking funny.
Hold still.
But it happens.
But it's ridiculous.
It's
It
happened
is.
where guys
So
go live
ridiculous.
and they do like even suicides on their
I
Facebook
know.
Live
That's
and all
true.
that shit.
That's right. That's right.
You know
That's
why?
scary, man.
Because people are watching that shit. If there was
Yup.
nobody watching to pay attention, these guys wouldn't.
Yeah.
They wouldn't bother.
Yeah, so that's what I was going to
See,
ask.
like nobody's watching our show, so
I know,
it's,
right?
No, we bother.
No, if we bring a car
Crickets.
chase in here, Paul, then they'd be, for the next hour and a half, be watching the car chase that we put, the pretend car chase. So all the channels have a car chase. All the channels are on it.
Right.
No other news is happening for that from 6 to 6:30 because there's some guys going 100 miles an hour on the 101.
That's what people want to see. That's what people want to see. I
They
remember
want to see the conclusion of it.
Exactly.
Well, I mean, they say human nature. I saw this on YouTube. Human nature is when we see something, when we see an image of something. There's 3 questions we ask ourselves: Can I eat this? Can I fuck this? Or is this going to kill me? Basically, and
I used
that's
to
why
date that
people.
girl.
Right. Well, that's why people are attracted to danger. It's just
'Cause you wanna
it's
fuck the
innate
car.
Hey, some
See?
cars are,
Worth it.
68 Camaro.
So, speaking of millennials, we mentioned that word several times here. Tommy, your video focuses on having an interview with a millennial, and it has a humorous, of course, spin to it or whatnot. But what's your opinion on millennials and and how they're affecting our world today.
Well, I guess because I'm an actor and also an insurance guy, and I work with people of all ages. Melissa Tucker, who played the part of Millennial in her mid-20s, sharp as hell. And when we saw the Twitter feeds coming in on people saying, one millennial said, so let me get this straight, Mr. Employer, Mr. Older Guy, you want to pay me $8, $9 an hour, work 45, 50 hours a week, don't give me any health benefits, go fuck yourself. But it caused such a frenzy because HR directors will tell you, they do see that person who is wanting to still live with mom and dad, or who feels entitled. So, it's more of a video about people that are entitled.
Right.
So it could be any age group, but it struck a chord. No doubt about that.
One funny line in the deal was you mentioned to her, hey, so you're going to have to get up at 8 o'clock every morning.
Who gets up at 8? I do.
Yeah,
I don't understand that.
She was like, I don't understand. I'm sorry.
What don't you understand? What you just said.
Yeah.
I mean, be ready to go. No. Did you say 8? Like 8 in the morning? Yes, 8 in the morning. Oh, that doesn't work for me. Who gets up at 8? I do.
Yeah, right.
That's halfway through most of the shifts I've ever had.
That's right.
Yeah.
Waking up at 3 in the morning, like you didn't even go to sleep.
I know.
Right.
What time is it? 2? All right. Time
See,
to
that's
go.
grown ass man.
One of my
Grown-ass
clients
man
in downtown LA that I have insurance with, I was down there helping him with the enrollment, and these men came flooding out of the cubicles that are in their late 40s, 50s. Hey, Tom, HR director shared the video with us. I said, really? He said, I had a young man come in here interviewing for a job, he said, and the guy was looking okay. He was a millennial. And then I said to him, do you have any questions? And the millennial said, how much vacation time do I get? And Paul, the guy said, 52 weeks. That was into that interview.
No pay.
Got up and left, man.
So that brings us. We kind of hit on it already. The meat and potatoes of our show here, which is gun control. Include these school shootings, mass shootings, things like that. People losing their lives on a daily basis because of guns. That's big in the news right now. The NRA is under attack. All the protests, things like that. How can we stop it? What can we do? How can both sides come to a compromise?
All these people talking about gun control, take away the assault rifles, but from 94 to 2004, the Clintons put in a ban on
for 10 years.
For
I
10
remember
years,
that.
and they didn't really see a drop in crime. Right. I mean, of course, they weren't able to shoot mass shootings in an assault rifle type of style, but there are people still shot with handguns.
Right.
Right.
I think we should identify what is like the major call to action right now is school shootings is big.
Huge.
That drove a lot of people crazy because of obvious reasons. You got kids, innocent children in school, being targeted by. Now you have to identify who did the shooting, and why. Yeah. But you don't really hear too much more. Like Chicago has been a hotbed for violence. So many people. Every day, weekly.
Chicago has the most restricted gun laws in the...
Chirac is where they call it.
So, so does that fall into the picture, too? It should, because look at just the sheer number of people that are being affected. Once in a while, you have a school shooting. Neither are tolerable. It's all a problem. So how do you affect everything equally, not just some? I mean, most of these school shootings are in suburban schools, right?
Yeah, right.
So what about the shootings in and around, communities?
Well, Tom, that's why you're here. Answer the question. Solve it.
Yeah, all of them. Solve this problem.
He has the answers today.
Well, that's interesting about you can ban, which I think you don't need that to defend your house, an assault rifle.
No.
If you're going to be attacked by a dog, you want a chihuahua to bite you or
I fucking hate chihuahuas.
So
They
there's
bite.
still going to be killings with guns.
I
But
agree.
the fact that you ban all those, a deviant enough mad person will go get a AK-47. He'll get the gun.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
mean, legally, he'll get the gun.
Of course.
As long as they're manufactured, as long as there's ammunition. But how can you cut down the let's go back to that word of the frequency.
Frequency.
How can you cut
Right.
back the frequency?
Right.
Identifying too what
I think so.
What approach are we going to like legal
this
guns?
This
or
is a
illegal?
problem that's like a cultural problem. Like we got the kids that are, like he said, being bullied,
Right.
and they're having these breaking points where they're just snapping, and
the family's not looking in the bedroom to see that kid's got 5 guns there
No,
and ammunition in the
no.
closet, and the mom's not
so
going to
the
turn
problem is
him
with
in.
the
Right.
our problem is with the parents, the public
Absolutely.
schools failing.
Absolutely.
I mean, all our systems that we have, the government's failing. I mean, there's nothing being done to give these kids what they need.
Right. To prevent all this stuff.
Well, in my opinion, it all comes down to medication, drugs, prescriptions. I think I mean, years ago, you had the big thing with kids is hyperactivity, and kids were doing this, so they prescribed them medicine and different types of prescriptions and
for
things
ADHD
like that,
and stuff,
right.
and all that. And I think now these kids these days were involved in these school shootings. These are the kids of those people who took those prescriptions and drugs back years ago, 25 years ago. So I think somehow maybe in their bloodstream, right? It was passed on to these kids, and now these kids these days
that would mean that the mothers would have to have stayed on that medication while they were
pregnant, right, during gestation and all that. So now the kids these days maybe they're even more mentally bothered, and now they have to be on medication themselves. And they can't stand bullying as much as we were able to stand it maybe when we were younger, because there's a mental health issue.
The technology where you got the phones, the internet, then you got the gaming where they're playing these shooting games.
Added all to that,
and they play these shooting games all day long where they get this disconnect from the reality and the reality.
Desensitization.
Yes, and so when they snap, they think it's okay to go pick up a gun and just spray the world because.
Okay. On that note, what about non-mental health kids, just mainstream kids that are on social media, don't play so many video games, but listen to songs on the radio or on, any social media, and all these guys are talking about gang culture and shooting and putting somebody's brains in their lap and all this stuff. I didn't listen to that stuff.
See, all that stuff is like all that propaganda and stuff that all these kids are listening to nowadays. Like, is desensitizing them. You know what I mean? I'm not. Here's one thing: like, guns don't kill people. People kill people. You know what I mean? So that's
my gosh, I've never heard that.
Well, no, you heard it here.
God damn it!
Every day.
Did we just strike something today?
I read this one on Twitter, and I had a little comment to say about this. Somebody brought up the concept of rocks. So there's a rock throwing issue. Somebody was at a school and threw a rock and hit a kid. Do we give everybody rocks to defend themselves?
Right.
Do we take all the rocks away? So my comment was, let's just make all the rocks really fucking heavy. So where you can't lift it, you think twice about lifting that shit. And I'm implying that, the rock, the heaviness of the rock is the cost to buy it. You tax the shit out of these guns. If you really want a gun, and also, you strengthen the law of, owning and operating, mishandling these weapons. Make them heavy. Bullets, everything related to the gun. That's just
expensive.
Well, when I was a kid, man, anytime I was bullied or whatnot, or frustrated, or somebody bothered me, or just school was ticking me off, things like that, I went to my room, man. I just checked off. That's all I did, man. I'm telling you, that can solve a lot of issues out there. A lot of
kidding
problems.
aside, there is a lot of that's not going on in society. Where if people had a better sexual life, there'd be less anger like that.
Absolutely.
And when people don't take their medication because they have a mental illness. If somebody's got a bad mental illness, but they take the medication, they can cope in society. But the problem is, if somebody's got bad asthma, he'll take his medication. But if you think, I'm feeling pretty good, schizophrenic, I'm feeling pretty good today. No, you're not. Take your fucking medication.
Yeah, right.
And that's, I don't need it. And that's when things go awry.
And there's nobody there to monitor that, especially if they're grown people. They don't have their parents there to make sure they take that medication. And then they're shooting people in Vegas.
I wonder how fewer shootings there would be if
people jacked off.
If families would just say, "My son, please come and get these weapons out of this." That guy that killed those children. What else? The FBI fucked up on that, and the FBI is awesome most of the time. They fucked up on that one.
Yeah. Those were his mother's guns, right?
I think that one of the statistics was saying about that most of the shootings, school shootings, are the kids getting the guns from the parents.
Yep.
Right.
And so that's a parent problem. They're not locking their guns up. They're not hiding their guns, and they're not putting that shit away.
That's right.
Or at least not teaching the kids on how this is something that's
or not
deadly, and they're not doing that. So
or not giving them up when you know for sure that you have a high risk in your house.
Yeah.
Well, here's another one. Like, okay, the kids, they live in the house. They're 18 and over. Now you're buying a gun at 8. You can buy a gun legally at age 18 years old. I don't agree with that. You know what I mean? That's just my opinion, and that's a lot of people all over the country that are saying the same
18
thing.
18 years old is still a damn kid.
Yeah,
man.
18 years. If
If
you're 18 years old, you're still in high school, unless you're in the military,
Right.
and you're trained to go and fight for this country. Then you're okay to have a weapon.
When do you think a person?
Active.
What's
If
the
you're
age?
active.
You're active.
What's the age a person is mature enough, you think, to purchase a weapon?
25.
25.
Because your brain doesn't. The parts of the brain
Right.
that control impulse and like
It's not.
Rational thinking and logic don't
And
fully
Franklin's
mature.
about a year away from that, getting to that
Yeah,
point. Like to have a weapon.
You're not fully matured until you're in your mid to late 20s.
That's why he's
and
still
then-
talking about jacking off.
It helps. It helps. That's when I was a kid, guys.
What
and
about
last
night?
week? Last week.
Come on, guys, I found the
Remember the
show.
Vegas shooter that killed all those people? They have, and I didn't know this. They have all these gun shows every year at Vegas. I think now they're going to go to a system where bring your guns, your ammunition will be sent to the test sites.
Wow.
This guy came into that hotel, which normally people do at these gun shows, taking guns upstairs and ammunition upstairs,
Right. Yeah.
pokes out the glass and kills all those people.
That is insane. man.
You know, our society, unlike most other countries, in the Scotland Yard, recently they carry guns, but for years, Scotland Yard, unless it was really a real dangerous situation, would go up and say, "We see you broke into that building, sir. Come with us." No guns.
Right.
Yeah.
And the,
Billy
the
Club.
thieves didn't even have guns.
Yeah.
We're really kind of a crazy society with guns. here.
Second
Almost
Amendment.
definitely.
Second Amendment started all that stuff. I mean, back then, when the Second Amendment was created, I mean, that's when you had to defend your family against wild animals. You had to defend your family against scavengers and people. You were defending acres of land, and
Right.
you needed.
You were out in the wilderness.
You were out in the
You
wilderness. You
needed
needed
to defend
guns.
yourself.
Right. These days, I mean, neighbors are living as close to you as you guys are to me right now. I actually, in my opinion, I don't believe in guns, period. With your theory of the rocks, I would take away all rocks. That's what I would do.
And then, of course, this comes, there's a history to everything. The history of the Second Amendment, it was, the British Empire basically establishing protections for citizens against tyranny, protections, the common man against the federal troops. So it's like, it's a little outdated now. We have, we live in, I believe, a free country. There's a lot of problems that still need to be fixed, but I think some of these laws are outdated. They need to be amended.
Yeah.
Again, they're always looked at. There's case law. I think there's more to do with, I don't think every single man, woman, and child,
Right.
or 18-year-old, whatever, has an inalienable right to just have a weapon. There are
Right.
are restrictions that should be
Let's say driving a car.
implemented.
so-
Exactly.
Yeah,
You should
right.
have a license to have a gun, like a real
It's
license.
easier to get a driver's license. It's harder to get a driver's license than it is to get,
Right.
get a gun.
Right.
That's scary, man.
Yeah, and that's
Unless you're from Utah, I'll tell you some crazy people in Utah. They're fucked up in Utah because they think they could get a militia together and defeat the government. There's some people out there crazy enough to think, I got to have my weapon because if the government comes after me, those are the people that scare the hell out of me.
that's-
You know
yeah,
what's
that's-
funny? The guys that are this is hilarious. The ones that are promoting the NRA the most, militia, we need our guns. We want to fight tyranny. But look who's in power, dude. Like that's the most likely person to
Yeah.
fucking come and do some crazy shit.
We're all scared of guns. The ones who scare me the most are the police. I got to say, as a black man, I am extremely afraid of police. With all these
Are
shootings,
you
of
100%
men,
black? We need to know that right
I
now.
am. I'm black enough to get my ass killed if I don't comply fully. Hands in the air, sir. I am a mental clinician. I am here to help this person.
I do not have a third hand putting it on a gun.
Exactly. Just because I have a huge cock does not mean I'm reaching towards for my gun with that thing. That's
An
my huge
officer
cock
I've had a
reference.
hard on right now for you. No, just kidding.
I can go into that all day.
Move over.
I can go into that all day, but with these shootings of black men, I remember your father teaches you when you see a police officer, comply. But these days, even if you do that, your ass could end
Now,
up
why
being
was
shot
the
by
young
the
man
police.
killed in Sacramento? He's in his backyard. What
Backyard
happened?
with his cell phone.
Yeah.
With his cell phone. I guess he was loud on his cell phone. Somebody made a call that there's some type of
domestic
violence situation going on in this person's backyard. So the police, they just pop up. What's that in your hand? Drop your weapon. And all of a sudden, the kid turns around and they shoot him dead. And see, my thing for this, I think the reason why this happens, I don't believe every police officer is racist and all this type of stuff. I just think it's a fear thing. I call it my pit bull theory, okay? Hear me out. All right. Let's say you're a animal control officer and somebody calls you and they say, hey, there's an animal or a dog walking around the neighborhood and this dog needs to be, locked up or whatever. And you show up as an animal control officer and you see a Cocker Spaniel walking around, okay? Chances are you're going to go, oh, come here, little doggy. Come here. Come on over here. I'll take it.
right.
But if you see a fucking pit bull, now you have preconceived notions about this
Gonna
animal.
come after you.
That animal may be just as sweet as that Cocker Spaniel, but because you have these preconceived notions about that animal, you're automatically going to pull out your, what do you call your tranquilizer. And probably as soon as that animal looks at you weird or, lifts his eyebrow, you're going to be ready to shoot it. So I think that cops look at us black people as black men as fucking
Well, the
pit bulls
gentleman
or
that was in
something.
the
I
car
don't
with
know.
his girlfriend about 4 months ago, and the officer's leaning in, and the gentleman's just sitting in the car, and the officer just starts. He shoots. He murders him in front of the girlfriend.
Yeah.
I
And his child, I
That's
believe,
that's
right?
that's terrible.
It's fear. It's fear. I don't think that cop was racist. I don't think that cop said, "Oh, there's a black man. I don't like."
Oh no,
black
I
people,
think
I'm gonna shoot him." It
no,
was
no,
fear.
no,
It
no,
was
I
fear.
no. I think they're. My grandson's a cop in Elko, in California. My grandson, and most police are good, but there's an element of policemen that are white race. I'm sorry
Yeah,
to say
yeah,
this.
there are.
They got a hair trigger finger, and
Yeah.
you could
You
be
mentioned that, Alex.
when you get shot in the back when you're turning around. It's and the police know this.
Yeah.
And most police are embarrassed and horrified by this.
Yeah.
And you know how
And they know they can get away with it.
prior to Rodney King, how often did we hear about this? Probably never.
Hardly ever
This
at all.
stuff happened so many
That
times
video,
before.
video, people getting pummeled with
Yeah.
sticks.
Oh, yeah.
It was never on
Yeah.
video.
Oh,
Of course not. Yeah.
So the
And
first
now
time,
these dash cams are good too.
Yeah.
See, because now when that police camera's on, and now they're wearing cameras here.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
In a
And
way
they're
to
still
protect the
shooting
good
people.
to protect the good cops
Yeah.
too.
And you got these idiots who are still shooting,
Hold
people.
my camera while I shoot you. No, I'm just.
Millennials. Millennial cops.
millennials.
Yeah, it's
So
a millennial
the
fault.
millennial cops are the ones that are scared. Yeah, that's true.
Well, the one that shot the what was it recently?
The
the
health
one we're
guy.
talking about. There was a video that we saw.
He was a rookie.
Yeah, he was a rookie. There was a guy that was on the floor. It was an African American man. He was on the floor.
With his hands in the air.
Yeah, with hands in the air.
Explaining the situation.
In the
What
situation that there was
He
a
got shot.
there was a young there was
He
a
was a he was a
he was a clinician or something like
clinician, a mental health worker.
He was working
Right.
with an autistic
He was working with an
kid that
autistic kid.
got out.
And there was a call that went out saying that there's a man with a gun. So the cops see this this person, this
it was the kid was the guy was a man. I think he was a man, and he was autistic, and he had a like a toy in his hand.
Yeah.
Like a silver toy, like a silver train. And the gentleman, the African American gentleman that was his assistant, he was helping him out. You know, the kid, well, it's a man. I think it was a grown man.
Yeah, it was a grown man.
He escaped from the facility. And the African American man, tried to explain to the officer, "Hey man, you know what? With his hands in the air, hey man, this guy
lying on his back.
Yeah, he's
lying on his
back.
back.
He told him, "Hey man, he escaped. I'm trying to help him." No. And
I
then
work here.
and
I'm
he got
trying to-
shot.
You know,
I don't think the guy was shooting. I don't know.
We don't believe you.
I don't think he was aiming for the guy on the floor. I think he was actually trying to take out the
the other guy?
autistic kid that he
Yeah.
thought was a threat.
Right.
See now,
It looked really bad though.
it's
It
a
looked
bad
bad
look.
though.
bad.
were they
bad,
that
bad.
close together physically?
He was laying maybe a foot, 2 feet away.
Oh,
he was
okay.
close
Yeah.
enough to try to talk this
Where
kid
David
down.
and I are. Yeah. Now we weren't there. We don't know what was in this officer's head, but it's just a bad look. It looks bad. It's horrible when somebody's lying on their back explaining to you. Why would you even need to? And even the autistic person who had this object in his hand, he wasn't even looking like a threat. So why would you fire your weapon? So that's my biggest fear. I just don't believe in guns. I say take away guns, take away rocks. You know,
How about sponges? Would you put sponges?
I mean,
Give
if it kills you.
Give a sponge bath? Huh? Would that be-
What do you guys think about
He
these?
might jerk off in front of you when you do that.
I think that'll. Think about somebody's about to whoop your ass, and you're like, "Hey man, you don't want to fuck with me, man." I mean, like this dude crazy. Let me get the hell away.
He
from
did
me.
that like he's
I'd
got a
walk
large
away.
cock.
You see
isn't
that
it?
face?
It'd be more like
You
this.
see that
but-
face? He was like, that was intense, dude.
Sounds to
I'm
me like
mentally
you've done it
ill
before.
when it comes to masturbation.
Don't exaggerate when you're masturbating, Frank. We know you got a small dick. Come on.
That's the little man syndrome.
Welcome back to the Dick Show, everybody. The Dick and Dick Show.
Abby Hitchcock. So
Can we get back to
yeah,
protests?
so
Okay.
yeah, so
Protests.
So I was going to say this: we're talking about these young people and shootings and you know mentally ill and things like that. But then you have a group of young people who are actually making a difference in this whole movement. The millennials who are out there speaking up, you know, for their fellow students who were killed. and
That's Generation Z.
Generation Z. So it's Generation Z versus the
That's
millennials.
the
Okay.
kids that are
So-
still in school,
okay.
about ready to go into college.
Okay.
I'm talk about stepping up to the plate.
Good job, Generation Z.
Yeah.
You know what's
Dude, how
very-
many people showed up
representing.
to that protest in Washington? That was a lot of
Oh my
big.
God, that was a lot of
All over
Not
the-
just in
all
Washington,
over.
worldwide, or
They had
nationwide.
They
I'm
had the
sorry.
one in Washington, but I mean, when was the last time that there was that many people in that?
Probably
area?
Obama's
It
inauguration.
wasn't Trump's inauguration.
Yeah, for sure.
That was called Photoshop.
But he'll tell you it was.
There were
He'll tell
actually
you
4
it was.
people there, and
Yeah, I
they
know
just
that,
fucking
yeah.
kept
And they just
populating a pop. There were like 3 squirrels.
They all
that
had
were
red hair.
multiplying.
Paul. They all had red hair.
Yeah, what's really interesting to you guys, like, you know, there's 2 sides. There's actually 2 main sides, and then all these in between sides. If you follow Twitter or any, Facebook, you just kind of sit back and watch and read and listen to people talking. There's a smear campaign against these kids that were at the school, lost friends.
Like they were being paid to perform as actors.
Right. And then
it's horrible.
Conspiracy theories are saying that there was 2 shooters there, and these kids are bullshitting, and they're actors or crisis actors.
Well, Trump would have run into the building and
Exactly.
just confronted that young man with wild looks in his eyes.
My question is, where are all these militia guys, with their freaking camo, with their guts sticking out, with their 46 gun? When all this shit's going on, where are they, dude?
Exactly. Exactly.
They're never there to save anybody. It's always like the school resource
they're at
officer
their
was
farms
there.
jerking off.
Something, dude. The guys that fight the hardest and talk the most shit. And
I
make
think
these
we should arm the nuns because they're mean anyway.
Oh, dude.
Start with the nuns.
Raise your hand if you went to Catholic fucking preschool. I used to get my ass kicked by nuns.
The switch?
To this day, I don't go to the zoo to the penguin exhibit.
Mother beat your
morbid fear.
Yeah,
of
mother
nuns.
beat your ass with a ruler. Yeah.
He got his ass fucked by priests, right?
This motherfucker.
Anyway, so
You're obsessed with jerking off and getting fucked right now.
I never went to Catholic school.
That's
I'm a
his
Baptist.
gun. His gun is his dick.
See, can we?
You would have made a good priest.
Can we edit out all
AK-47.
See, we'll edit out all his stuff later on.
Yeah, so it's basically this is now, Tom. You
You don't even know what to say.
yeah, no. To me,
I'm going to block your shot, son.
as an actor here in Los Angeles, one of your main roles, basically, you get a lot of work as playing Abraham Lincoln, not impersonator, but you actually presenter. Okay.
Been very blessed for 19 years.
Yeah, I can
nice.
see it too. I can see
I was at an audition 19 years ago at USC for a grad project. Rob Markopoulos, who later went on to be with NFL Films, is doing his senior thesis film at USC, and I'm there auditioning for trying to build up my resume a little bit. He said, "Tom, you're going to play Lincoln in my comedy short." And see, I went, He said, "Wait till you see yourself in makeup." I had no idea that I had this gorgeous, I thought it was Brad Pitt look. But no, when then I bought an outfit. I keep reading about Lincoln.
right.
Last October of 2016, I grew the beard for the first time. Now nothing comes loose when I'm performing. I darken my beard,
Right.
and then I put a mole right here,
Of course, yeah.
and then I darken my eyebrows. I get an erection, and I go perform.
I knew it was coming. I was waiting for it, man.
See, I'm not the only
seriously,
one who's obsessed
he
with
really
his
has one, guys.
Now you have Lincoln
I like
pre-war and post-war. Now you're definitely post-war Lincoln, right? When he was old and ugly and
Good
things.
comment. No, Delano, that's a good comment because Lincoln did not have the beard his entire life until
he was
running
lawyer
for,
Lincoln.
He was running for president,
Yeah.
and a young girl knew that he was running for president and wrote him a letter and said, "Mr. Lincoln, you're just a great politician. I think you would look better with a beard." So he grew the beard while he was running for president.
It looks great on it. It looked great on him. And yeah, so you give us some facts about Lincoln. We're going to sort of ask you. The question I'm going to ask you was, if Lincoln was president today, how would he react to some of these issues going on?
Well,
in
he
the
would
United
say, what's happened to the equality and justice that we established when we passed the Emancipation Proclamation, and then when we passed the 13th Amendment, saying that when the Emancipation Proclamation was passed, it because we were pissed at the South, it freed all the slaves in the southern states that were part of the Confederacy. The 13th Amendment said, no, all blacks are free throughout the entire nation. Well, when Lincoln gave the second inaugural address, he said, now that they're free, they should be able to vote. And John Wilkes Booth, who tried to kidnap me a year ago, he thought, what, vote? Because women couldn't vote until the turn of the 1900s.
Right.
That threw him over the edge, and that's when he then thought, I'm going to kill Lincoln.
Wow.
Oh, I never knew what John Wilkes Booth's main motivation was for killing Lincoln.
Well, he was the quintessential white racist at that time. Wow. He went into Ford's Theater on April 14th.
And he was an actor.
Was he a millennial?
Oh, he was
a millennial.
He was not only a famous actor, his brother Edmund Booth was world renowned, and John Wilkes Booth was a really good actor. And he was traveling through Washington, and he was telling the postman, forward my mail to Washington, D.C. I'll be there for a while. So these actors would do that. He goes to pick up his mail, and he's so popular that one of the stagehands said, "Oh, Mr. Booth, here's your mail. By the way, the president's going to be at the play tonight." And John Wilkes Booth went, oh, okay. So late that night, during the middle part of the play, when he knew where there was going to be a lot of laughter, he snuck in, stood at the back of the. And people saw him at the back of the audience. Oh, Mr. Booth's in here watching the play. Then he quietly stepped up the stairs,
got his gun.
He had the little Derringer just with one shot. He pushed the door open and shot Lincoln right here.
You know what actually was playing that night? It was Attack of the Southern Fried Zombies. I thought he was just pissed because the movie was so boom.
The Millennium.
Hey, I love that movie. I thought it was great.
I thought it was awesome.
So I've been real fortunate to get to play this guy all the time.
Yeah, you obviously have your Lincoln facts.
That was good.
And he was shot. He was our 16th president. He was shot by a gun, of course. So he killed by a weapon, back of the head.
And John Wilkes Booth, about 9 days later, they found him hiding in a barn because he finally got turned in. And one megalomaniac Union guy wanted to be a hero, and John Wilkes Booth was coming out of the burning barn, but he saw an opening in the barn and shot him. And he died on the porch of that about
the
8
same
hours.
way.
Oh,
Pretty
wow.
close. And one of the last things that John Wilkes Booth wrote, he was writing notes to his mom. He said, "Perhaps I have not done the right thing," because he was hearing the fury.
Right, of course. Afterwards.
Do you know when Kennedy? I know where I was when Kennedy was assassinated because I was teaching school in the Midwest in 1963. Because you guys, I'm old enough to remember that.
What were you like? 70 at the time?
I'm 78 now. So when Kennedy got shot, right after Kennedy got shot, it was on. She was dead. In the South, the nigger lover's dead in windows, plastered windows.
Oh, wow.
What was that? I'm sorry. Oh, you were quoting
throughout the South.
That's who said that?
White racists were just thrilled that Kennedy had been assassinated. So I mean, Lincoln today would say, "What the fuck's going on?"
Right.
Mary Todd doesn't put out. Now this is happening.
Jesus.
The man that saved our country, house divided shall not stand.
Right.
That was his quote.
That's crazy.
And I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for Lincoln, or maybe I'd probably be in the back of the rooms, maybe controlling the camera or something. But, the Emancipation Proclamation, thank you so much, Lincoln. God bless your soul.
What would Bill Clinton have to say about gun control?
Oh, Bill, that's a different type of species right there. Bill would love, Bill, he's the one who started the law, right? He's the one who outlawed all the AK-47s and those high ammunition weapons, right?
Clips.
Who brought it back in?
It was only a ban for 10 years.
Yeah.
Why did they only ban it for 10 years?
I have no idea.
Come on, see, you should know
That was between 1994 and when? From 94 to
2004.
2000.
I think that was the height of the gang violence in Los Angeles, post riots and all that.
Yeah.
But you said it didn't really make a difference.
You mean
right?
Didn't make a difference in crime.
Didn't make a
Rodney
difference
King
whatsoever.
riots or
There was a lot of stuff going on at that time.
Yeah, the Rodney King
riots,
which is responsible for freeing OJ, by the way.
The gang violence is what they were concerned with.
The gang violence, right? It was at a rise.
Wasn't there actually a truce in 1992 between the Bloods and Crips during the riots? That's what I heard. That
they were at a Taco Bell.
They were jacking the pawn shops together.
Burning that stuff up.
Was that after the riots?
What kind of hot sauce you want on your taco?
Was LA riots.
LA riots was in 92.
After the verdict from
Rodney King was in 92. OJ was in 94.
That was
OJ
Louisiana
was 94?
hot sauce,
He
by
was
the way.
he was in 95. He was acquitted. And OJ wouldn't be. He would be. OJ used that whole Rodney King thing, basically, use the black card to basically get freed.
How can you put on a pair of gloves that are on your hand and they look a little tight and say, if they don't fit, you must acquit?
I'm not saying shit because he's still out there, dude. I'm not fucking OJ, I love you, bro.
Let the record show that Paul loves OJ.
Paul loves the juice.
Fuck that shit. I got like 46 of his football cards, bro.
Those went down.
They're all the same pose. He's like this.
Those went down in value real quick.
No more shit.
Hey, where were you during that whole thing, during the OJ thing?
Just moving from San Diego up here. I moved up here in 94.
Oh, you
was
were here
walking
in
by
94 when all the craziness was happening, huh?
Yeah.
Wow.
Did you get caught up in the traffic when they were chasing OJ?
OJ, yeah.
I was in the white Bronco just talking to him for a while. Crazy ass.
He had the hat on.
Yeah. Yeah, you're innocent. You've not murdered Ron Goldman and your wife, but you're just going down towards somewhere on the 405 in a white Bronco. That's the innocent man's behavior.
Right.
I don't know. So that brings us, that pretty much brings us. Anything else you got, gentlemen, want to talk about?
If you
coming
had
up?
billions,
Did we ever say what we were gonna
yeah,
do
how would you
about this
fix
problem?
If you had billions of dollars to pour into schools to make them safer from this particular type of violence, what would you do?
Well,
Kevlar desks.
Yeah, you know,
I would. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I used to.
Well, your opinion doesn't matter. No, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I used to work at a school. You know, I was there for a while, and you know, there was a lot of inconsistencies that I saw, and you know, nowadays, I guess the principals are getting smarter, and I believe in that the school should be shut down as far as like any kind of door that leads into the school.
Yeah, right.
You know, all these people have to come in, check in. Hey, here's my
Front
ID.
office.
Yeah, and don't let anybody come on the campus. You know,
It's kind of drastic, but they need to just close the fucking doors.
Yeah.
8 o'clock when the school starts.
And that's it.
Shut it
Elementary
down.
schools are doing that right now.
Shut it down. Don't let nobody in.
They are.
And if you have
Yeah.
an
Your kids are
appointment,
going
you can
there.
come. And just like when I used to work with kids, if they wanted to enter the facility, they needed to show ID and have keys. That's all they can come with.
Yeah,
And
nothing
that's
else.
it. And,
But what
and-
if the
and
enemy is within?
I got one, guys, from that. So, like, a lot of these classrooms lock down when there's a warning, some type of internal warning system when the shooter is located on campus. There's usually one. Only Columbine had 2 shooters. That shooter can't mingle through all the classrooms at one time. Maybe make ballistic doors. The actual door to the classroom, because when they try to shoot through the door,
That's
there,
right. I like it.
some special
like it.
locking down mechanism that can lock the kids into the classroom and prevent them from, he'll be isolated, and then
that's what we need.
officers can
Keep him in
respond.
the hallway. Keep that shooter in the
Yes.
hallway.
Right.
And then maybe some type of like triangulation system, like where they can actually put a lock in on this guy and follow him throughout the school.
I mean, that's tough because even the walls, like, look at a bullet will go through this wall like nothing.
Drywall.
So
Drywall.
it's, hard, it's
Yeah.
very expensive
You know.
to do that stuff. And
Yeah,
tax
and-
guns,
and
spend that money, federal
Yeah,
money, back
yeah.
on reinforcing. I mean, there's so many schools, but
I think a lot of it is what you said. If you can keep people from getting on the campuses, now that school in Florida, I think it was one of those real wide open campuses. A little bit tough to do that.
Yes.
Right.
But
this
yeah.
kid in Florida showed up in an Uber, like, what the fuck? You get out with his fucking gun and be like,
always
see you
Uber,
later,
you
dude. You know what I mean? Like, and then walk into school and just start
Right.
blasting.
Just start shooting
It's
people.
So,
So-
we can't stop it. I mean,
Yeah.
people are going to get
Education,
guns
dude.
the way they get the guns.
Right.
I mean, we basically have to, like, watch the people that have mental health problems. They need to stop them from getting guns by buying them.
Absolutely.
Right.
Which they still can somewhere on the black market.
Right.
of course.
That's
lock,
what's
lock
terrible.
the schools down.
That's what's gonna happen.
Lock the schools down. Don't let nobody on. Protect our kids that way.
How about
Vigilance.
how about a way to track down these black marketplaces and really put some enforcement there and scare the hell out of them and
That's a
shut
whole
them down?
other
That's,
topic.
Yeah,
that's
If you can
now we're
shut
talking
them
about
down.
FBI
The illegal gun
and
trade coming
ATF
in.
getting involved, but
And what about the teachers who were fucking the kids? What about?
That's the next show.
That's another
That's
show.
another
Oh,
show.
I'm getting our shows mixed
Don't
up.
get ahead of yourself.
Yeah. Okay.
when
so
I was in high school, that shit did not happen. What the fuck?
Yeah, what, I know. You
At
missed
least
out
they
on
weren't
that,
hot.
didn't you?
Why do you sound so disappointed? He's like,
Because if I could have got an A that way, then I would.
but you were in an all-male high school, dude. All male
I did
teachers.
not go to all.
All right, so it looks like we're gonna have to go ahead and wrap things up here. That was our serious show, believe it or not. And hopefully, for all of you Mentalians out there, you took notes and you listened. And you know, if you're not happy with how things are these days, which you shouldn't be,
Tough shit.
you know, write your fellow congressmen. You know, join these protests. Speak your mind.
Buy a gun.
Say how you feel.
Right to the show.
You know, find the heaviest rock you can, and you know, just do something. Do something. Okay.
Throw that down those dick.
Guys, can I finish the show
See
here? Guys,
fighting
can I
with
finish
her.
the
See
show?
fighting with.
Our producer's telling we have 1 minute left, so we're going to go ahead and end this. Our next show will deal with maybe a more lighter topic, okay? Unless we feel like we want to talk about something
I
deep.
think according to this show, our next show is gonna be like about fucking or something, right?
Hey,
Because
fucking
Delano,
huge cocks and
or
things.
jerking off or something.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
That's
too.
what I was about to say. Let's give it up
Yeah,
for Tom
thank you very
Katsis.
much.
Thank you, Tom.
Being here today.
Go check out that video on YouTube.
Sure. Yes.
Awesome.
Yes. A or the or some type of millennial interview. Just type it in YouTube, and you'll see this handsome or used to be handsome about 50 years ago man
Hey,
pop
check
up.
out
and
Back
you'll
in the
see
day.
it.
Attack of the Southern Fried Zombies too. You guys will like it. It's a good,
Yes,
it's a good
Attack
laugh.
of Southern Fried Zombie. Megan Few, love you. We'll see you guys next time on the Mentality Show. Love, peace, and happiness. All of you Mentalians out there, love you.
Awesome.
You're listening to The Mentality Show, only on LA Talk Radio.